Welcome, everybody, to The Vine and the Veil, the podcast where we journey between worlds, revealing the mysteries of the light and dark, the wisdom of the spiritual, the wonder of the mystical, and the power of the supernatural. I'm Carlos, your host, and this is my co-host,
Maria. Tonight we're going to dive into one of the most infamous hours of folklore, the witching hour.
Ooh.
You know, those moments where you see a shadow in the corner and you're like, is that a demon? Or is that the shirt I put up for tomorrow? I mean, how
Scary.
Often does that happen?
I know that's happened to me before where I like jump. I'm like, oh my God, it's something sitting at the foot of my bed. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's just my blazer.
You know what really freaks me out? When one of my cats is like staring at a corner looking at something and I'm like,
What are they looking at?
And then I look at the clock and it's after 3 and I'm like, oh shit, is this a demon? I don't know, something supernatural. There's just something to the weirdness of the witching hour, the 3 a.m. or later freaks you out.
Yeah, and it's super interesting because, you have to ask yourself the question if, it's the witching hour, but think about this, right? 3 a.m. is a different time at every point in the world, right?
Yes.
So, when you think about it, just in the US, for example, 3 a.m. on the East Coast time is only, what, 10?
Something like that, yeah.
So is it the same as the witching hour, or does the witching hour travel continents and time zones?
I could tell you a little bit of history, or at least like ancient folklore or folklore around the different cultures. So ancient Europeans used to believe that spirits, witches, and wandering souls were the most active at midnight.
So it was midnight then?
Midnight.
Okay.
And then in Chinese tradition, there was a concept that the ghost month happened in nighttime hours where there was a boundary between the living and the dead, and it became more permeable.
Oh, okay.
So essentially the veil is thinner.
The veil is thinner
Yes.
at a specific
Correct.
point in the night.
In the night, not specifically 3 a.m. Japanese folklore is filled with stories of the yokai and spirits appearing during the darkest, quietest hours before dawn. So again, not 3 a.m. And then many indigenous traditions around the world also recognize the liminal times, moments between worlds, and the supernatural encounters that become more likely. Now, where does 3 a.m. come in? One guess: Christianity.
Is that where
it is where the 3 a.m. comes in. So again, it's believed that Jesus died at 3 p.m. So the opposite of that, which they consider is like, oh, the devil's gonna come and get you, would be 3 a.m.
But
so
who made that up? Like, it's just the kind of like 3 sounds like a perfect time to scare the shit out of somebody, especially kids, right? Because again, a lot of this happens when you're a child, where you hear these tales of like, I was up and something terrible happened and it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, just think about what you do when you're scared. Where do you obviously go to? Prayer, usually.
Sure,
right?
If you've been brought up
if you were brought up Christian household, you're gonna like crack open that Bible and start saying some prayers. But yeah, Christianity has a lot to do with that 3 a.m. hour versus it being the different times in different cultures.
So how did it get so popularized though? Like, because of course Christianity was a thing, but then I would assume that at one point with movies, horror movies,
books, you name it. Doesn't Anne Rice have a book about the witching hour? I believe she does, or she did.
Yeah, so again, it's popularized.
Popularized,
it's a way for people to get scared. And now, again, if you believe it, the possibilities of it manifesting are probably true for you in your time and space.
I do have to say, with it being different languages, different religions, different continents, they all kind of have a similar idea. So is there something that happens at the dark of the night that makes things more paranormal, or the veil thinner?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think it is extremely possible, especially because there are commonalities across multiple cultures in multiple times, right? So this is not just limited to ancient times. It existed across everywhere.
Correct.
Or the idea of a spirits or the afterlife or something like that, if you subscribe to that.
Correct.
And you believe in that. And fun fact, when I was in China, I visited a Buddhist temple that was 1,600 years old. And as I was going up an area into their tea garden, which was magnificent, the steps were going up in a zigzag formation. And I was like, why is that? So I asked my my tour guide why it was, and they're like, this is because it was believed that in the middle of the night the spirits would come out and they would follow you, but
Interesting.
spirits could only go in a straight line.
Huh.
So if you created a path that was zigzaggy, they couldn't follow you. They would get stuck there.
That's
Yeah, and
interesting.
then they would come and then they would dissipate.
That's
So it's kind of
interesting.
interesting to think about the fact that in the middle of the night or when it's quiet or
Hmm.
at some point when everything settles, that's when people believe that
Hmm.
it happens. Now, whether it's 3 o'clock, midnight, whatever, I think that's subject to whatever people are raised by.
Hmm.
But I mean, even think about mom.
Right.
Mom had some stories about how as soon as it was dark, you don't go
Oh,
out.
correct. Yeah.
So that could be like 4 p.m. in the wintertime or 8 or 9 p.m.
Yeah.
You don't go
You
outside.
don't go outside. You don't go outside. So my question for you is, have you ever had a 3 a.m. experience?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I've had a couple of different 3 a.m. experiences. One of them was I was in college, and you know, you start getting these. Our college was old. It was founded by the Quakers back in, I think, the late 1800s, and a lot of people had gone there. So I think that there's just a lot of energy that is tied to it. But yeah, there was one time where I was a RA in the summertime for these people that came to study English, and my job was to, at different intervals of the night, go and make sure that they were in their area. They were only on the first floor, and the second and third floor of this dorm was empty, supposedly. And sometimes you would go by at around 3 o'clock in the morning, and you would hear voices that are coming from the rooms, and you'd have to
Hmm.
go check, and there's nothing there.
Wow.
And then one time it was I remember it was 3:03 a.m. and I'm walking doing my rounds and I come around the corner and the lights start blinking as I walk by. As I'm
Interesting.
walking by and I'm getting like, "Oh my
Like
God."
every
Every time
subsequent
I
light.
step,
Oh,
this
heck
light starts
no.
blinking. And then out of the corner of my eye I see a shadow in the far distance like dive down the area where the stairs are.
Hmm.
I look at that point, I'm kind of freaked out. So I just run downstairs
That's
and I
interesting.
tell the other RA who's down there, I'm like, dude, this is crazy. I just saw this thing. And he thinks I'm making it up.
You're right.
So he and his girlfriend at the time, they take the next round and they go up and I kid you not, within like 15 minutes, they come running down.
That's
They're like,
crazy.
oh my God, I saw something. I saw something that's super
Yeah.
scary. So that was one experience
Hmm.
that I had.
Yeah. So as a child, we had multiple things happen to us around the house. The two that stick out is one of them, and I don't know why my parents would put a mirror over my bed. There was a mirror over my bed, and I think it was around 3 a.m. I don't remember because I was like 7 or 8, but the mirror shattered and it literally, like, nothing was on my body, but it was around my body. So that was one of the things that was odd.
Well, the interesting thing about that one is that you and our sister were arguing before all of that happened,
Yeah.
before you went to bed.
So was
So
that our energy
it's
creating the
possible,
shatter?
but
Was she so
whatever,
mad at me that it's like
no, but whatever came, because it looked like the mirror had become unglued or fallen forward, but it's something hit it and shattered it
shattered
before
it?
it landed on
Exactly,
you.
exactly. The other thing is, I like don't even remember it that well because I think I was like 6, but we were in Mexico. We had gone. It was our first time visiting my mom's family. I think you had gone before then, but our parents, again, avid Catholics, were doing their
Oh,
night prayers. And while they were doing that, they heard a knock on the door, and then no one was there. And my parents went back to praying. Then all of a sudden, the Bible closed on them. So that was an interesting experience. I just remembered like both of them panicking, but I don't remember anything past that. It
yeah.
was,
They both panicked and then they kept praying
yeah,
even
yeah,
harder,
of
which was
course.
interesting. When you think about that, oh, let's pray harder and see what happens. Well,
Yes.
obviously, whatever energy that's there, it's not really tied to Christianity or
No, for
Catholicism or
sure, for
anything like
sure.
that.
The only other experience I had around 3 a.m. was 3:15. I was living in my condo in Long Beach, and Sammy Noodles woke me up, and then all of a sudden I hear this crash. And I run out to the entryway, and I had this little table with a vase on it, and then around the vase I had crystals. All the crystals were scattered all over the
Mm.
floor, and Sammy starts growling.
Oh, the
And
cat
I was
growling.
like, what's going on here? No idea. Like, I didn't panic. He didn't panic. He was definitely like a cat that was willing to defend instead of willing to run away. So that was my last 3 a.m. experience.
There's one that is still in, aside from the one in college, was back at home, of course, because there was a lot of paranormal activity in our house. I was up late doing homework because I had a bunch of AP classes in high school. For those of you who have AP classes, you know what I'm talking about. And I had finished, and I was reading because I liked to read, and I was getting tired at some point, and I close my book, I turn off the light, and I get ready to go to sleep, and I turn, and on the other side of my bed there was a chair that I used for reading and other stuff. And so I turn and I close my eyes, and then there's this
Oh no.
breathing that's coming from the
chair.
location of the chair. And I was frozen in place because I'm like, what is that? Like, there's some, I don't even know. I don't even want to turn. I don't, because when you've grown up in a Catholic household, you've seen scary movies, and so all of these things run through your head about what it is that it could be there that's ready to snatch you up or something, right? So I jump from my bed to the light switch and turn it on and look, and it stops.
Wow.
Okay. So then I freak out a little bit. I look at the clock, and it's 3:13. So eventually I calm down and I turn the lights off, and then I go back to bed. Then it starts up again. And I remember at some point Mom said, if anything like that ever happens, then confront it.
Yeah.
And ask it what it wants. And so I mustered up enough courage, because I was probably, I don't know, like 14, 15, about 15. And I was about 15. And I turned around and I said, do you need something? Because if not, I have a big test tomorrow. Please leave me alone and let me sleep. And as soon as I said that, everything stopped.
Interesting.
And then I turned around and went to sleep about an hour later, because I was waiting to see if it would come back. But it didn't come back again.
What if it was a perv ghost and that was its cuck chair? I mean, it sounds like he was moaning and groaning.
It could have been.
It could have been.
It could have been.
I mean, you didn't know that then, but there's kinks for everyone, even spirits, I suppose.
But I think it's one of those things where you have, like, early on when I look at these things, right, and this can segue into the idea of, are these things real?
Or are they
psychological? Or are they some combination of both things, right? Because when you get into the point where it's super quiet, there's nothing else going on, your brain everything starts to settle, and your awareness starts to open up more. So you become aware of things that you may not have been able to see or hear or kind of understand, because you subconsciously do this.
Correct.
And there is the idea that at some point before you hit REM sleep and theta, you are in this in-between state. So,
like a meditative state.
Yeah, like the meditative state, where you now have the ability to be able to see and experience other things. So it is possible that some of these experiences are you're seeing or you're feeling, or maybe your mind is the only way it can process energy that you're able to now access because you're in a relaxed state, because normal life is so busy and overwhelming that a lot of that stuff just gets lost in everything. So I don't know, what do you think?
I think there's something to that, but I also think there's something to the fact that, I mean, now more so than when we were kids, but there's always so many distractions in day-to-day life. Like nowadays you have, you're scrolling TikTok, and then at the same time you have TV at volume 24. So between all of that, I think there's so many different distractions around us that when we are in those quiet moments, I think the stuff that's already there is actually visible because it's already there. Like, it's always there. We're just not seeing it because of all the distractions that happen.
Right.
And I don't think that hauntings or paranormal activity, it's not designated just tonight. I think that it's just always there. We're just not conscious enough. We're not in that phase enough to be able to be open to it.
Yeah. There's also an interesting theory that says that all timelines are happening simultaneously. There's many
Yes,
versions of you that exist
yes.
simultaneously. So imagine the possibility of what you're seeing that you think is a
Is an
haunting.
alternate
It's just a
dimension.
parallel
Yes.
timeline that
Yes.
you happen to come into contact with
No,
for a brief period
absolutely.
of time.
I could believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this is why sometimes people say, oh, well, it's residual
Right.
haunting versus something that's actually active. Well,
Right.
maybe it's actually going through and seeing,
Right.
or you, the version of you is
Yeah.
actually going through and doing a different thing
Right.
in a different parallel timeline potentially. So I think that as you start expanding outside of just the what you learn out of Christianity or the horror movies or the stuff like that, I think the possibilities of what this could actually be, they broaden, right,
They
for you.
broaden, yes,
Because
absolutely.
what we grew up with was extremely, extremely limited.
Correct.
I also think that there is something about the collective consciousness that has an impact on it. So the more people that you get to believe in something, the more it will manifest for the collective.
Yeah, the more energy you give to it.
Yeah, the more energy you give to it. So, in your reality and in other people's reality who believe the same thing, things will start happening at those times because now inside subconsciously you're believing that that's the case.
Like residual energy. Let's say that it is a spirit, the more collective consciousness, the more energy that's going to that. I mean, it's like energy vampires with people. I do believe that energy vampires are real. I've worked with several of them. But that
Another
could be another podcast for another time. But I do believe that that could be true for, whatever entity might be around you or energy around you. If you are collectively putting that energy, you're building it up and then making it more powerful to be able to do things.
Right. I also think that for most cases, energy is neutral. Energy it exists. You shape it. So your belief system shapes it, whether you think it's malicious or demonic or whatever it is, dark, light, you shape it in the way you were brought up, the things you believe in, and what you're scared of, what your fears are. And so you see in a lot of cultures sometimes is like, if you don't fear it, it cannot have power over you. Right. Or if you don't believe it, it will not have power over you. Right. And that's pretty much...
I believe that's true for anything.
That's pretty much anything, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that, because just in normal day-to-day life, I was watching a movie with Claudia yesterday, and it was the CEO walks in and everyone's afraid. And I was like, that's a fear that somebody is putting to that person. That person doesn't have, they have a little bit of power over everything else, but ultimately that's just a person. So there's no need to fear that person. And it's just so fascinating how people are afraid of people like that. Just like they're giving energy to that person, we could be getting energy of fear to whatever it is that we're confronting in life.
So think about Reddit, because we did a lot of research on Reddit to and we're going to read some stories that happened for people that submitted on Reddit. There's so many threads that happen, and it's always like 3 a.m. Sometimes it's a little, midnight. Sometimes it's whatever, where now people are like, oh, it happened at 3. Oh, obviously there's something going on now that is 3 o'clock in the morning. So that ultimately starts shaping the collective reality of a lot of people, because now they believe in that. And so it manifests whatever it is that they're afraid of, whether it be a demon or an entity, a poltergeist, whatever it is that, becomes the vehicle for that manifestation.
Yeah. You ready for our actually only Reddit story?
Yeah, let's hear a Reddit story.
There were so many other ones, but they were like all little short ones, so I decided to go with the good one. So, this one is called The 3 a.m. is a Devil Hour True Story. This is my first post on Reddit. So sorry if my writing is bad. So this story is this is a story that happened a couple years ago when I went back to my homeland in Malaysia on holiday. It started when I went to visit a cousin and his mom for 2 nights. So at that time, my cousin was living with his mom and they lived in a pretty big house. The day I arrived at his place, he told me about an experience he had 2 nights ago. He was chilling in his room when suddenly the door handle started turning. He looked at the door for about 5 minutes and the handle just kept turning as if somebody was trying to open the door. He never kept his door locked, so it was strange that it would never actually open. He called out for his mom a few times, but she was asleep. He checked the time and it was 3:13 a.m. Apparently, 3 a.m. is supposed to be the devil's hour. The next day, he was visiting his aunt and told her the story. She gave him a weird look and asked him what time that happened. She told him that around 3:10 the same night, she heard some sounds of knocking in her bedroom window.
Ooh, that's wild.
Right? The knocking went roughly on for 10 minutes and then just stopped. Fast forward to the first night I spent at his place. We were just chilling in his room talking. He was sitting on his bed and I was standing up against the bedroom door. Suddenly, we both heard 3 quick, loud knocks. His door handle started turning. I looked at the door expecting his mom to walk in. It was pretty late and we were being kind of loud, but nothing happened. We both looked at each other and instantly knew that we needed to check the time. It was 3:05 a.m. We sat for a while waiting to see if anything else would happen to the door. Nothing happened. A few minutes before we both settled down, we went back to chatting. All of a sudden, we heard a crash coming from downstairs, which sounded like a bunch of pots and pans that had fallen onto the ground. This happened at 3:12 a.m. We immediately ran out of the room to his mom's to check on her, but she was fast asleep. After mustering up some courage, we both started freaking out. We decided we were going to go downstairs to investigate. It was really creepy because it was pitch black downstairs and all the lights were off.
Oof.
It seemed like the longest walk of my life, which took us 20 seconds to walk all over to the kitchen. We turned on the lights and scattered across the floor were a bunch of pots and pans that were
Ooh.
stored originally in closed cupboards.
Okay, so the cupboards opened and
Yep.
the pans went down.
Yes,
Awesome.
we cleaned everything up and went back upstairs. The next day, we told his mom about everything that happened. His mom is a big believer in the paranormal, but told us that events were no coincidences at 3 a.m. since it's the ghost hour. I'll leave it up to you to decide whether it was a genuine paranormal experience or if we just imagined this stuff. This would have been the second scariest experience I've had, but the first story is for another day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, knocks on the bedroom window.
Yes.
To like
Mhm.
attention, get attention.
Yes.
So he had, was it the same? Because she had it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, the aunt had it for 10 minutes.
He had it for not very long.
I don't think they set a time
Okay.
on when it happened, but
Interesting.
they did have
So they were
knocks.
experiencing, it wasn't just them experiencing stuff. And then after the knock, the 3 knocks quickly to
Yeah.
jiggle the handle,
Nothing. Yeah.
then the pots and
The
pans.
pots and
knocked
pans.
down.
The pots and pans happened a couple of minutes later, like 10 minutes later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So interesting.
What
But
do you think?
again, was that residual energy, or was it a different dimension?
Yeah, it was
or
a different
that
dimension where
a
somebody opened
poltergeist?
cupboards and, pots and pans
Yeah.
knocked down.
Yeah.
Or is it energy that exists
Yeah.
that their belief
Right.
manifested
Yeah.
and started, doing things because they believed it to be
Yeah.
so? Because mom didn't even wake up.
No, mom didn't even wake up, but I can tell you about the 3 knocks on the window. So my husband does not believe in the paranormal. He never had a paranormal experience until this first one. So we were living in Palm Desert and we had just moved in together. It wasn't midnight. It was like probably around 10 o'clock. We heard a knock on a window. 3 tick, tick, tick. I opened the curtains. No one's there. Daniel's like, oh, that was weird. So I opened the door, looked out, closed it. Nothing was there. Next thing we know, tick, 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 3 knocks on the door. And I was like, okay, that's too much of a coincidence. So it was still full Catholicism.
Yeah.
Had some holy water on hand.
Still scared.
I ended up putting a sign of the cross on the window and the door. And then next thing you know, our kitchen window. So then after that, I just like holy watered all of the windows. And that, like, from that moment on, my husband, who believes that he repels any kind of paranormal activity, he believed the first, like, that was his first instance with any kind of paranormal ghost or weirdness other than when he was in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which we know is full of lots of weird energies.
Yeah, when you start thinking about, again, it depends on how you're brought up, right? Because that whole 3 thing, right? 3
Yes.
knocks, supposed to be related to something a little more demonic if
Right.
you're brought up in Christianity, because it's the opposite of when Jesus supposedly died,
Yes.
right? And now it becomes the mocking of the Holy Trinity if you believe in that religion. And so, yeah, it just starts feeding in and of itself, right? So you hear something like that, and now all of a sudden you have a connection that you make to something that is very fearful.
Right.
Because, again, you're taught to be afraid of those things.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, bring out the holy water, do the thing.
Right. You know what would be interesting is to research whether or not there was anything about the 3 knocks or anything before Christianity was
Well, I mean, think
mainstream.
about it. Think about this. There's power in 3.
There is power in 3.
If you, again, there's a lot of 3 is a very powerful number. It's a very, it's a number that's tied to when witches in groups of 3 or people cast spells in groups of 3.
Right.
It's supposed to be very, very powerful.
Right.
So I find it very interesting that, and this is just my jaded point of view, but I find it very interesting that somebody at some point within an organized religion took that 3 that is supposed to be very powerful and beneficial and demonized it.
Yeah, of course.
Into something that is not okay, which is what you would, going a little bit off tangent, which is like the number 13. Friday the 13th is, for some God knows what reason, is bad luck. 13 is an extremely powerful number and a very beneficial number as well in numerology if you're into numbers. And so now they've taken something that is that, you know, the Mayan calendar runs on 13 instead of 12, right? So there's a lot of numbers that are associated with goodness, benevolence, and other, you know, religions or other races or cultures that have been taken and now demonized.
Right.
So it makes you wonder.
If there's makes you wonder so much about, you know, the power that was taken away from people.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And I mean, we can go into each one of these topics, right? The different powers of numbers, symbols, things
so
like
many
that,
rabbit
because
holes.
there are so many things that are attached. But I think it all comes down to your belief system and what you truly, in your reality, think is real.
Yes.
Versus what it's not.
So the takeaway is that you have the power to banish any of these negative energies.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
So next time you hear something and you look at the clock and it's 3 a.m., don't fear it. Just tell it to go away.
Did you ever, when you were working, did you ever have to work a late shift? And did anything weird happen?
I was usually in the operating room for many hours, but it was always me in the operating room. I never saw anything. I never saw anything, but I did work with someone. So we had on-call rooms at one of the hospitals I worked at. And I worked with the nurse that swore that he was continuously being seduced by a residual ghost.
Okay,
Yes.
so a residual ghost or like a succubus, maybe?
I don't know. He said that she was dressed in like the old white nurse's garb and that she was very seductive and tried to have her way with him many a time.
Okay, ghost sex.
Yeah,
okay.
Ghost sex.
Oh, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah. That was a weird one, but he swore up and down that happened. It was a very old hospital from the 1800s, so it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, are you afraid when something happens at 3 o'clock in the morning?
No, not anymore. Like, no, as a kid, absolutely. But as an adult, I don't fear anything. I haven't feared anything in a really long time.
I find it interesting that sometimes I'll wake up from a dream and it'll be 3:33. And so that's interesting in that, okay, is there a correlation in a specific chain of numbers?
I think there could be a correlation to our circadian rhythm or even our biological, like, is that your bladder's full at that time?
Maybe.
And you have to run and go pee.
Yeah, exactly.
Our hormones may be peaked at a certain time and wake us up.
Who knows?
You have sleep apnea. Maybe that's the time that your body's like and gasping for air. I mean, there could be so many things. So many things.
So yes, I think the summary of it is if you believe it, it'll be there for you. If you don't believe it, it won't. It's just another time, if you believe in time even, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't believe that time actually exists. But it's a point in your reality where you have the choice whether you subscribe to a belief system where things like that exist and the creatures of the night come out at that time, or you don't. Or there's something else where you think, yeah, if you're able to shift your mind's eye, you can see things that are always there, but you just never were at the frequency to be able to actually see them.
Yeah.
Super interesting. So that, I think that we can stop there, but we would love to hear from you guys what you think.
We would love to hear any stories that you have of waking up at 3 a.m. any time during the night. Frankly, I think if folklore has taught us anything is that people have had experiences, right? So we would love to hear yours, and that, you know, getting creeped out in the night, middle of the night, has been happening for thousands of years, and probably something that's still going to happen to people throughout history.
Right. And so what do you think we should do for our next podcast?
Let's go vampires.
Ooh, yes. I want to go vampires since you mentioned vampires.
Yes, energy
vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we can do a whole segment on vampires. I'm pretty excited to do that one because that one's historically it's very cool, and some people think they're vampires.
Yeah.
Some people actually are vampires.
I freaking love vampires.
Yeah.
And rice vampires.
I do like werewolves. Werewolves are pretty cool. Lycans, skinwalkers, that's my jam. So we'll probably do an episode on that. But yeah, vampires will be next. Then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But we'd love to hear what you guys think. If you guys have a cool story, please submit it to us and we can take a look at it and read it on another podcast of your encounter with something at 3 o'clock in the morning, or if something crazy happened that you can't explain at some point in the night. That would be cool too. So
unhinged stories.
Unhinged stories.
Yes.
Yes. Unhinged stories.
The veil and the vine.
The vine and the veil.
Thank you. The vine and the veil.
I like that. The veil and the vine and the veil, right?
It is the vine and the veil at gmail.com.
The vine and the veil at gmail.com. All right, y'all.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.